Imagine sitting in a pitch black room with a blindfold on.
Okay.
Within just 60 minutes, your brain will physically begin rewiring your visual cortex. It just starts processing sound and touch instead.
Which is pretty wild to think about.
It really is. I mean, that is how aggressively your brain is fighting for real estate inside your skull right now.
Yeah, we often think of our brain's physical structure as static, once we hit adulthood, like it's a finished building.
Right.
But it's actually, well, it's much closer to this bustling, hyper-competitive city grid where the roads are just constantly being rerouted based on where the traffic is heaviest.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today, you and I are exploring our own mental operating systems. We're pulling from this truly fascinating interview with Stanford neuroscientist Dr. David Eagleman.
Such a great source.
It is. We're looking at the actual mechanics of neuroplasticity, how to consciously build cognitive reserve, and how to outsmart your own bad habits.
And we're also getting into how to ride the incoming wave of AI without losing your human edge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So consider this your shortcut to the operator's manual for your head.
And to really leverage that manual, we have to start by understanding the baseline.
Right.
Because before we can talk about consciously upgrading the brain, we need to look at what it's doing when you're completely unconscious.
Okay, let's unpack this, because for centuries, the whole purpose of dreaming has been framed around psychology, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like processing trauma or prophetic visions or memory consolidation. But Eagleman's research frames it as something entirely different.
Right.
Territorial defense. It's essentially a nightly turf war for that city grid you mentioned.
It really comes down to evolutionary biology.
Yeah.
And, well, the planet's rotation.
The rotation of the Earth.
Yeah, because we spend half our lives in darkness.
Right?
So the visual cortex at the back of the brain is routinely starved of input.
Right, because there's nothing to see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if that visual territory isn't receiving data, the neighboring senses, so hearing and touch, they will literally begin encroaching on it. And the takeover happens with stunning speed.
So that's the blindfold experiment I mentioned at the top.
Yes, the Harvard study.
Right. Researchers at Harvard blindfolded these normally sighted individuals, and in just an hour, their visual cortex started responding to auditory and tactile stimulation.
Just 1 hour.
1 hour. So if you're asleep for 8 hours, your visual cortex is in serious danger of being permanently overwritten by your ears and your skin.
That's the real threat.
Are you saying dreams are basically just an aggressive screensaver so the rest of the brain doesn't cannibalize our visual hard drive while the lights are off?
That is exactly what they are. It's a biological defense mechanism.
That is wild.
What's fascinating here is that every 90 minutes during sleep, this ancient circuit in the midbrain fires random electrical impulses directly into the visual cortex.
Like a shock to the system.
Right. It's defending the territory by forcing activity. It's signaling to the neighboring senses like, hey, this space is still occupied.
Back off.
Exactly. But the brain, being this relentless storyteller, tries to weave those random electrical zaps into some kind of cohesive narrative.
Oh, I see.
Which is why our dreams are so bizarre and disjointed. It's just random noise being stitched together.
And humans are uniquely vulnerable to this sensory takeover, right? Because our brains are profoundly plastic compared to other species.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we are born effectively half-baked.
Half-baked.
Think about a foal dropping out a horse. It's running within an hour.
Right.
It's operating on pre-installed, hardwired software.
Yeah.
But human babies arrive with almost nothing pre-installed, because they have to adapt to wildly variable environments.
So that plasticity is our greatest evolutionary advantage, but it requires massive defense early on.
Yeah, which is why human infants spend up to 50% of their sleep in the REM state, the dream state.
50%?
Yeah. Their neural real estate is so malleable that it needs constant electrical zapping to protect the visual pathways while they develop.
That makes so much sense. And the source mentioned that this defense mechanism is so ancient and hardwired that even blind mole rats...
Oh, I love this example.
Right. A species that entirely lost its vision over millions of years of evolution, they still experience REM sleep.
The circuitry defending against the dark is still firing, even though the eyes themselves are completely gone.
Unbelievable. So if the brain is so incredibly adaptable that it tries to rewire itself in 60 minutes of darkness, what happens to that adaptability as we get older?
Well, the trade-off for that early adaptability is that we lose some of that extreme fluidity over time.
Okay.
By age 2, we actually hit our structural peak in terms of the sheer volume of neural connections.
Stage 2.
Yeah, we basically transition from fluid intelligence to crystallized intelligence.
What's the difference there?
So a 2-year-old possesses the fluid intelligence to absorb the tonal nuances of Mandarin just as effortlessly as the syntax of English.
Right, they can learn anything.
Exactly. But as we age, we build a crystallized model of how our specific reality operates. We optimize for our daily commute, our specific career, our social circles. We prune away the connections we don't need to make the ones we do use highly efficient.
Wait, so what does this all mean? Like, getting really good at my job is actually bad for my brain?
Well,
It's like driving the same commute every day until I'm on autopilot.
that's a great analogy. Because if we optimize too well, we run into this tragedy of biology.
Which is?
Brain tissue physically degenerates over time. If we aren't forcing the brain to construct new pathways, we are basically setting ourselves up for cognitive decline.
That is terrifying.
It is. The brain prioritizes energy conservation above almost everything else.
Right.
When you first learn a complex motor skill, like juggling, your neural pathways are flooded with activity, consuming massive amounts of glucose to coordinate the physics of muscle timing.
Because it's hard.
Because it's hard. But once you master the skill, the brain hardwires that specific sequence. The activity drops off. It becomes neurologically cheap to execute.
So to prevent that stagnation, we have to look at the nuns study.
Yes, this is a brilliant study.
Researchers tracked this large group of Catholic nuns, right? And upon their deaths, autopsies revealed that many of them had the physical ravages of Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah, the plaques and tangles that physically destroy brain tissue.
Exactly. Yet while they were alive, these same women exhibited zero cognitive deficits.
None.
None. No memory loss, no confusion, nothing.
And the mechanism behind that resilience goes back to that city grid analogy.
Okay.
Alzheimer's might act like a sinkhole, right? Destroying a major intersection in the brain.
Oh, I see.
If you only have one route to get to your destination, that sinkhole halts all traffic. You experience memory loss.
But these nuns...
These nuns had built a massive cognitive reserve. They lived in tight-knit communities, engaged in daily chores, played complex games, and navigated the constant social friction of living with other people.
They essentially built dozens of alternate side streets and back alleys.
Exactly. When the Alzheimer's sinkhole destroyed the main road, the brain simply rerouted the traffic without skipping a beat.
That is amazing. And the sources emphasize that social friction is one of the most potent road builders available.
Because human interaction is inherently unpredictable. It forces real-time adaptation, empathy, and conflict resolution.
Right.
When someone retires, shrinks their social circle, and just falls into a highly predictable routine like watching TV all day.
They stop building those alternate routes.
Exactly. The physical degeneration of the brain continues, but there is no cognitive reserve to mask the damage.
Meaning the key to longevity is perpetually seeking out the zone between frustrating and achievable.
Yes. The moment you actually master the guitar, you should drop it and start learning the cello.
Yeah.
You have to continually inject struggle into the system.
Okay, but knowing we need to seek out struggle is very different from actually executing it.
100%.
If we know that learning a new language or going for a run builds cognitive reserve, why is it so incredibly difficult to actually do those things? Why do we choose the cookie over the treadmill?
Because we operate under this fundamental illusion of singular identity.
What do you mean?
Well, you have one name, one body, and a continuous stream of consciousness, so you naturally assume there is a singular you making decisions.
Right, I'm me.
Neurobiologically, that is entirely false. Your mind is a parliament.
A parliament?
Yeah, you consist of 86 billion neurons organized into competing networks, and they are all lobbying for different outcomes based on different evolutionary priorities.
So when I'm staring at a piece of cake...
It isn't one unified mind weighing the pros and cons.
Wow.
One neural network is screaming to consume the dense calories to stave off potential starvation. Another network, maybe a more recently evolved one, is arguing for long-term cardiovascular health.
And a third one is trying to broker a deal by promising to exercise tomorrow.
Exactly. And the action you finally take, whether eating the cake or walking away, is simply the gavel coming down on the final vote of that parliament in that specific millisecond.
Whoever shouts the loudest wins.
Whichever network manages to recruit the most neural activity wins the floor.
Which means relying on willpower at 10 p.m. is statistically likely to fail.
Oh, completely. You've already lost the vote because the short-term gratification network has a massive advantage when your overall energy levels are depleted.
So you basically have to rig the election beforehand.
That rigging is formally known as a Ulysses contract.
Okay, Ulysses, like the Greek myth.
Right, where Ulysses orders his crew to tie him to the mast of the ship so he can hear the siren song without being able to steer them into the rocks.
Right.
A Ulysses contract involves taking an action in the present that actively constrains your behavior in the future.
It's like setting your alarm clock and putting it across the room so your morning self is forced to physically stand up to turn it off.
Yes.
Night you is literally outsmarting morning you.
That is the perfect example. Or automatically routing a percentage of your paycheck into savings before you ever see it.
Oh, yeah.
You are using the rational network in power on Tuesday morning to outmaneuver the impulsive network that will inevitably take power on Friday night.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, recognizing this framework extends far beyond just productivity hacks.
It really is the architectural basis for self-compassion.
How so?
Well, when we look back at past mistakes and think, man, that wasn't me, we are speaking literal neurobiological truth.
Because it was a different network running the show.
Exactly. The network currently evaluating the memory is not the same network that had control of the parliament when the action was taken.
That is so freeing.
Right. Understanding you are a team of rivals allows you to strategically plan for your structural weaknesses without attaching immense moral weight to every failure.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Okay.
If building cognitive reserve requires deliberate struggle, creating alternate routes through the city grid, we have to confront the reality of artificial intelligence.
Yes, AI.
Because we are rapidly adopting tools explicitly designed to make things easy and eliminate friction. If AI does the heavy cognitive lifting, doesn't that mean our neural grids will start decaying from lack of use?
Well, this requires a crucial distinction between two types of mental effort.
Yeah.
Vicious friction and virtuous friction. Dr. Eagleman argues from a position of cyber-optimism. He views AI not as a neurological crutch, but as an expansion of our intellectual diet, provided we deploy it correctly.
So, vicious friction being the administrative drag, the repetitive formatting, the algorithmic busywork that occupies most of a modern workday.
Right. There is zero biological benefit to formatting a spreadsheet. Outsource the vicious friction immediately.
And virtuous friction.
Virtuous friction is the deep work of synthesizing new concepts, grappling with strategic dilemmas, learning a new language. That is what builds cognitive reserve.
But wait, if I'm facing a complex strategic dilemma and I just feed the parameters into ChatGPT to generate a solution, I'm literally avoiding the hard part.
You are.
Doesn't that mean that AI is robbing me of my cognitive reserve? I might get a great answer, but my brain didn't have to build the bridge to get there.
If you utilize AI as just an answering machine, you are absolutely robbing yourself of the cognitive workout.
Right.
But consider the analogy of technology as transportation. Steve Jobs famously called the personal computer a bicycle for the mind.
Right. It increases our efficiency.
Well, AI operates as a motorcycle for the mind. It provides massive propulsion. The trap is letting the motorcycle drive itself.
So how do we use it properly?
The developmental value comes from using AI as an adversary for dialogue, meaning you don't ask it to write the strategy. You write the strategy and ask it to find the fatal flaws.
Oh, I see.
You essentially have Aristotle in your pocket, the world's most comprehensive debate opponent, one entirely unburdened by social etiquette. It won't sugarcoat a bad idea to protect your feelings.
That relentless critique forces you back into virtuous friction.
Exactly. But there is a ceiling to what the AI can provide.
Really?
Yeah. When we discuss generating truly novel ideas, the kind that actually shift culture or industries, we have to look at how creativity mechanically functions.
Okay.
Neurologically, creativity is just the process of remixing past inputs into new configurations.
And AI models are the ultimate remix engines. I mean, they've ingested the entirety of human output and can generate 100 variations of a song or an image in seconds.
They can. But the sources highlight that while AI has limitless capacity for generation, it possesses zero capacity for selection.
Selection.
Yeah, selection requires intuition about the human condition. AI algorithms operate on statistical probability.
Right.
When you ask them to generate an output, they mathematically map the request against their training data and aim for the dead center of the familiarity curve.
They give you the most average response.
They produce the most statistically expected outcome.
Which is why Ed Sheeran writes the boy band hits, but culture still evolves past them. Humans are wired to crave the tension between the familiar and the novel.
Exactly. We want a structure we recognize, disrupted by an element we didn't see coming.
And AI just provides the center of the curve.
Right. It requires a human mind to review 100 variations, spot the bizarre outlier, and recognize that that specific anomaly will resonate emotionally.
Because the algorithm lacks a limbic system, it has no idea what it feels like to be moved, to be surprised, or to be human.
It doesn't. But you know, it's crazy. According to the research, humans barely understand what it feels like to be each other.
Wait, really?
Yeah, we operate under this assumption that our baseline sensory experience of reality is universal. But it completely isn't.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, if you're listening to this right now, test your own wiring.
Okay, I'm ready.
Picture an ant crawling on a purple and white checkered tablecloth toward a glass jar of red jelly.
Okay, I'm picturing it. I can clearly see the texture of the tablecloth, the specific red of the jelly, the little reflection on the glass. It functions like a high-definition movie in my mind's eye.
That vivid visual theater is known as hyperphantasia.
Okay.
But a significant percentage of the population exists on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, a condition called aphantasia.
Aphantasia.
Right. They possess zero visual imagination. If asked to picture an apple, they understand the conceptual data of an apple, its crispness, its shape, but there is no corresponding visual image projected in their mind.
Not at all.
None. Dr. Eagleman himself has aphantasia.
And the founder of Pixar, right? Ed Catmull. Yes.
That absolutely blows my mind. So the people making some of the most visually stunning movies in the world literally can't see pictures in their own heads. That is wild.
It really is. It beautifully demonstrates that divergent neural wiring dictates the method, not the ceiling, of success.
Right.
An animator with aphantasia cannot rely on an internal reference image. They must engage in a constant iterative dialogue with the physical canvas in front of them, paying hypervigilant attention to how light and shadow actually behave in the real world.
This raises an important question, though. If our foundational sensory experiences are that wildly divergent, if we literally cannot agree on whether a mental apple possesses color or shape, no wonder we have such intense political polarization.
It completely provides a neurobiological context for our divisions.
Right.
We are attempting to navigate shared social and political landscapes while inhabiting fundamentally different mental realities. And when you combine that sensory divergence with digital algorithms designed to perfectly insulate us within our preferred viewpoints, polarization isn't just likely, it's the mathematical default.
Exactly. The algorithms feed the neural parliament exactly what it wants, the low-friction, high-dopamine validation of being entirely right, while flattening the outgroup into two-dimensional caricatures.
This is precisely why we are witnessing a massive paradoxical surge in demand for IRL in-person experiences.
Oh, completely.
People want live Taylor Swift concerts. As tech optimizes our digital lives into isolated silos, the biological craving for shared physical reality skyrockets.
You want real nurses holding our hands,
No.
not a perfectly efficient robotic bedside manner. We want someone who understands fear.
So the countermeasure to algorithmic isolation is to deliberately complexify our relationships.
Yes. The brain naturally categorizes people into in-groups and out-groups to conserve processing power. To combat that, you have to actively seek cross-cutting connections.
Like finding the outgroup member who also loves golden retrievers.
Or surfing, or woodworking. You find the individual whose political ideology you find incomprehensible, but discover a shared obsession.
And that forces the brain's empathy circuits to process them as a multi-dimensional human being.
Yeah.
It breaks the algorithm's categorization.
That uncomfortable, messy, face-to-face friction isn't just good for society.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate cognitive workout to keep your human empathy circuits active and build your own neural reserve.
Okay, let's run through the ultimate cheat sheet for you listening today.
Do it.
First, remember that your dreams are fighting a nightly turf war for your visual cortex. Lean into virtuous friction to keep your brain plastic. The moment a skill becomes neurologically cheap, abandon it and seek out a new struggle.
Love it.
Stop relying on willpower. Outsmart your neural parliament with Ulysses contracts. And finally, use AI as a motorcycle for your mind, but don't let it pick your destination.
You are the sculptor of your brain. Every challenge you face today is a chance to build a new bridge in your mind.
But I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to ponder.
Okay.
If our brains are constantly rewiring themselves based on the social friction and the conversational partners we are exposed to, and we are now spending hours a day talking to AI models designed to perfectly mimic human thought, but with none of the friction, what new neural pathways are we inadvertently building in our own minds right now?
Wow.
As we shape the AI, is the AI quietly resculpting our neural parliament? Something to think about the next time you ask a chatbot for advice. Stay curious, Keep leaning into the frictional, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.